This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome once again from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name, of course, Evan Janssen. The show is very much live, broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. We're also live on YouTube right now, where the whole show is always available on demand at your leisure on our YouTube channel. Now today we get an update from Malawi, where the situation has reached crisis point after more torrential rains over the weekend in the flood-ravaged country. Have we turned the corner in the fight against the Ebola virus is a question we'll ask Medicines Sans Frontières this. Last week, all affected countries recorded the lowest total of confirmed cases since August last year. We also look back at the Minstrels Carnival that took place in the mother city at the weekend, and then forward to Bafana Bafana, who faces the top African team in the African tournament, that is Algeria, a little bit later today. But first, let's get the day's news from Katrina Lang.
Well, hello and welcome to Newsroom. I'm Katrina Milan, and let's just take a look at those top stories this morning. Humanitarian agencies are rushing to assist thousands of people who have been displaced in Malawi following floods that have killed at least 176 people and left several others missing. According to disaster relief organizations, Malawi is most likely facing the greatest flood disaster in the history of its existence. Torrential rains continue to pour down, and a new cyclone is set to make landfall soon. The prevention of waterborne diseases and food security are main priorities at the moment. Back in South Africa, the Malamulele community in Limpopo has vowed to continue indefinitely with their shutdown until their demands are met. Businesses, schools, taxis and other industries will not operate for a second week. Limpopo police say officers in vans were pelted with stones at Mpambo village outside Malamulele in Limpopo last night. Residents demand to be granted their own municipality separate from the Thulamela municipality. In court today, the Helen Suzman Foundation will continue with its bid at the High Court in Pretoria to have Hawks Chief Anwar Dramat reinstated. Dramat was suspended last month by Police Minister Nathi Nhleko, who cited the illegal rendition of Zimbabwean suspects in 2010. The foundation argues that the section of the South African Police Act which Nhleko used when suspending Dramat has been removed by the Constitutional Court. Nhleko's lawyers asked the court for more time last week, saying they still needed to consult with the minister. Campaigning ends today for Zambia's presidential election tomorrow. The fiercely contested battle sees 11 candidates vying to become the country's sixth president. The post of head of state was left vacant by the death of President Michael Sata last October. Zambia's electoral commission says 5 million voters are registered. Cameroon's authorities say suspected militants from Nigerian group Boko Haram have kidnapped about 80 people and killed 3 others in a cross-border raid into Cameroon. The kidnappings come as neighboring Chad deployed troops to support Cameroon's forces in the area. Meanwhile, in a separate attack in Nigeria, a suicide bomber killed 4 people and injured 35 others in the northeast town of Otisco. Twitter reactions have been overwhelming to Proteas batsman AB de Villiers' record-shattering 31-ball ODI 100. De Villiers broke 2 world records in yesterday's second one-day international against the West Indies at the Wanderers in Johannesburg. De Villiers' fastest ODI 50 and fastest 100 has led South Africa to an historic win. The Proteas made 439 for the loss of 2 wickets in their 50 overs. In reply, the West Indies made 291 for 7 and lost by 148 runs. South Africa is now leading the 5-match series 2-0. And Bafana Bafana will open their 2015 AFCON campaign against the #1 ranked African side Algeria today. The South Africans find themselves in the worst-case scenario whereby they are in what is argued to be the group of death. Algeria's status as the top-ranked soccer nation on the continent will come under tough scrutiny as the African Nation Cup's finals moves into the 3rd day. Now remember, all those top stories and more are all available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can then also keep up to date and follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Katrin. Now, severe weather patterns have caused havoc worldwide at the start of the 2050 new year. More than half of Malawi has been declared a disaster zone following weeks of torrential rains. We are seeing the same situation in Mozambique, with thousands affected by heavy rainfall that has damaged schools, bridges and lots of other infrastructure. Moving to the other parts of the globe, icy cold weather in Gaza has also led to many deaths. Relief disaster organisation Gift of the Givers announced last week that they will be sending aid to both Malawi and to Gaza. Now, joining us from our studio in Durban is Gift of the Givers founder, Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman. Dr. Imtiaz, very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Ibn. Good to be with you again.
Dr. Suleiman, before I go to you to chat about both Malawi and Gaza, I want to go to your man on the ground. He's Jafar Jakuda, who is in Malawi. So I just want to get a quick update from Jafar. Very good morning to you, Jafar. Are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Good morning to you too as well, and thanks for calling. The situation is unfolding in many areas now. We've got the main disaster areas, Sanje and Ngula, as well as Chikwawa, where a lot of floods have taken place and a lot of people, to the tune of over 121,000, have been displaced. Overall, the figure is over 200,000. We've got in the southern tip of Malawi a place called Palombe in Mulanje district. The areas are completely submerged in water. Properties have been destroyed. The roads have been converted into pools of lake everywhere. And there is every effort being made to see that, apart from our own organization, Gift of the Givers, others are also coming on board. In our case, we've been supplying food items in the Chikwawa district, together with our Malawi Defense Force helicopters. We have reached to places where people have been stranded and have not been able to get any food supply. And also we assisted and supported the Malawi Defense Force by ensuring that people who are stranded are given some kind of shelter. And we moved into areas where people have actually been sheltered in places like community halls, schools, churches, mosques, and schools.
Jafar.
And then the needs are plentiful. We've got a situation where we need something like almost 3,000 tents, as there is a short supply of tents here in Malawi. And the manpower will be supplied from our defense force to see that various tents are erected, apart from us making every effort to see that we too also erect a few tents. Plastic sheeting for damaged house repairs is required for reinforcement. Then on the education side, 240 schools have either been submerged by floodwaters or used as temporary displacement sites. Millions of dollars have been lost of education supplies. Schools being used as temporary shelter. Longer term, these schools need to be relocated completely. The school needs around 800 tents to hold temporary classrooms. So there's quite a big demand arising from this catastrophic disaster.
Jafar, just tell us, a new cyclone is expected to make landfall, or was expected to make landfall in Malawi last night. Are we seeing more rain, and is the outlook looking just as bad for the week ahead?
Yes, for the next week, southern region, which has been very badly affected up to now, the rains have subsided here, but the central and northern regions are likely to be hit very hard with heavy downpour of rains. As far as the cyclone goes, there are two theories. One is going to move away to Madagascar. The other one is that through the Congo, it may come this side as well. So people are bracing for anything of a big eventuality that may take place. But the likelihood is that we will be spared the cyclone hitting us. But the downpour of rains is supposed to come in cats and dogs type. So central and northern region are now the areas which are likely to be affected very badly. Already out of 28 districts of Malawi, 15 districts have been affected, and 5 of them are in the central region. So we are hoping that we don't have too much of damage, but the indications are very strong that we will have more destruction.
Jafar, thank you very much for that
And number of
update.
people who have passed away is over 200, and 153 people only in the Chicago district are missing. So overall, the country is bracing for some real hard times for us.
Jafar, thank you very much for that update. As you can understand from that update on the ground from Jafar Jakura, who is in Blantyre, Marawi, the situation is dire, the outlook is not good. I've got Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman with me live from Durban. Hello again, Dr. Suleiman. A tough time for the people of Malawi. I want to ask you about your relief efforts there, and then if you can tell us if you have any difficulty in dealing with the situation on the ground right now.
The relief efforts is what Ghaffar has mentioned to you already. Now, we in Malawi for 10 years. Strangely enough, the office in Malawi was opened by the brother of the present president. Peter Mutharika, as the present president, his brother, Dr. Bingu Mutharika, opened our office officially in 2004. And from that time, we've had excellent relationships with the Malawi government, even with the president before this, Joyce Banda. And when we got to the areas in the south, the Malawi Defense Force were very, very helpful. In fact, we were really reliant on them. We must not forget, we must give credit to the Malawi government and the Defense Force. Being a poor country, they've done an excellent job, rescuing 4,000 people from trapped areas very quickly. They don't have the best of boats and the best of helicopters, but they were admirable. Their statistics, their figures, everything was up to date, total cooperation. So in terms of logistics and support, it's been brilliant. Of course, except where the areas are impassable with broken bridges and broken roads, you can't do much about that. But they use the helicopters to ferry the supplies to trapped people, and they even use their boats to ferry supplies to trapped people. We, from our side in South Africa, had water rescue teams on standby. Last night, the disaster management told us, look, the water levels are subsiding in the south. We don't need the water rescue now. Most of the rescue is done. But we are, as Ghaffar mentioned, expecting more rains in the central and north region. If that becomes a problem and becomes very critical, then we'll call you for the water teams. The other area that's on, we have to be on standby after he's explained the damage. What is the point now? We have to wait for the medical crisis. There may be cholera and other waterborne disease, which is a reality. There's stagnant water and there's a lot of mosquitoes. Malaria normally is a big problem in Malawi. It's going to be aggravated now by the millions of liters of stagnant water. So that's what we're on standby for, and we have a medical team on standby for that purpose. Again, we won't move until we get the go-ahead from the Malawi disaster management. We don't want to impose ourselves on them.
Have you had any response after your appeals for assistance last week?
Yes. Many people have already started. Many people have called. Some people said, I've been to Malawi. It's very sad. Where can I bring stuff for you? Other people said, when's the bank details? Other people said, what can we drop off? Others said, we're making collections and we'll get back to you. So we've had an excellent response, from people calling us. Generally in the weekends, it's a bit slow in South Africa. But from this morning, we will get many, many more people calling us and responding to us, because we know people know the situation. The media has covered it quite extensively, and people are aware that it's a major disaster.
Let's move our attention to Gaza, where another humanitarian situation is playing itself out. Icy cold weather, it's a little bit unheard of. Tell us about the detail of what's going on in Gaza, and then what's the latest from your team on the ground there?
Well, around the same time as the Malawi floods broke, I got a message from Gaza, very sad message from my office representative there, saying this child has died from cold weather. And she mentioned 3 or 4 children in different areas who died because of cold. Then she mentioned a fisherman who went to sea to try to fish for his family, and he died, succumbed to the cold also. And she said, look, as a result of the war in Gaza in September, in July, that war had destroyed many buildings. And of course, I had seen that for myself with a team that had been there. And strangely enough, before I left in September, I told them, your biggest problem is going to be winter now, because there's no way you're going to get building material in here. You can't build homes. People are going to be stranded outside in tents, maybe in the open area. When winter comes, you're going to have a major, major problem. They said, what can we do? We don't have building material. It's access to Egypt and Israel is very difficult. The borders are blocked. We don't get building material coming in. So we have to just manage on the outside. Last year, when I say last year, I mean December 2013, they had a flood situation there. And this time, they had a cold situation. And the cold was freezing, as you know, all over the Middle East. And immediately they called, they said, look, kids have died, other people have died. We released money and we said, go and buy warm stuff and start covering the people. They live in open areas, it's tents, there's water all around, there's no gas, there's no fuel, there's no heating. They have to chop firewood to make themselves warm. So all you can do now is try to provide warm stuff, nothing else. And you know, you're stuck, that's all you can do. We've already started distributing warm items, and we've asked them if they require anything else, they must please let us know.
What are the main obstacles that your relief organization is facing in dealing with the issues in Gaza right now?
Well, Gaza, the biggest problem is if you cannot get the items inside Gaza, it's a major nightmare trying to bring it from the outside, either from the Egyptian side or from the Israeli side or even from the Jordanian side. Things don't move fast enough. There's an emergency. Sometimes you can wait for 5 or 6 months for items to come in. Unfortunately, they have a total blockade on items coming to Gaza. So when you get stuff inside, like when the war happened, we were very fortunate that they had some supplies initially. In the stores there, we could buy medical supplies, we could buy equipment for them. Now again, we're fortunate that they had some stock inside some of those companies in Gaza. But if they don't have the stock, it's a major problem. It takes a long time, several months before you can get anything in. And by the time you get it in, for this case, we try to get winter items in, it'll probably be summer by that time.
How many months before things start to warm up a little bit?
You look around, probably around end of February. You know, by end of February, March, it starts getting warmer. But remember, the weather patterns have been upside down all over the world. Nothing follows a system anymore. In South Africa, in summer it's cold, in winter it's warm. The weather patterns have been messed up all over the world. So there's no definite way you can say, yes, now the sun is coming through. As the sun comes through, suddenly you have 3 weeks of cold again. So it's very, very difficult. But normally, by the end of February, beginning of March, things should start warming up to some extent in Gaza.
Dr. Suleiman, thank you very much for talking to us this morning and giving us a picture as to how things are standing in Gaza, as you've just seen, but also in Malawi, where a massive humanitarian aid operation is underway. Many people are still threatened, if not from direct flooding, also from waterborne diseases and, well, the threat of mosquitoes that hangs over them in that part of the world. So get in contact with Gift of the Givers if you want to make a contribution to the relief effort in Malawi, Mozambique also, and in Gaza. But let's have a look at some of your tweets where you're talking about this morning at SABC Newsroom. Menzi Galuti say, always wonderful to see acts of humanity stem from home. South Africa's always there when Mozambican floods cause human disaster, I think, every year. There you have a wonderful picture of what is happening. That one from UNICEF in Malawi. Enormous amount of people affected by the Malawi floods. These survivors are boarding the rescue boat. Many are still in the water. It is a real humanitarian disaster. There you have a picture. That's a village. That's actually a town. There you see Malawi flood scale of severe flooding, displacing more than, well, it's now said to be more than 200,000 people in Malawi. There you have a picture from Toko Chikondi, who says there were no prayers at Bangula Church of Christ in Nsanje yesterday. As you can see, even the church is flooded in that area. There you have the scale of the real issue that's facing parents in Malawi. UNICEF says back home, never the same. Malawi floods. You can see people are really battling to come to terms with this disaster. It's a real humanitarian disaster that's happening almost under all of our noses. Let's all try to get involved. Send money, send aid, send food if you can. Let's now take a look at front pages from around the globe to see what else is happening in Nigeria. The Vanguard has a picture of Pope Francis waving to a crowd of people as he arrived at the University of Santo Tomás yesterday during his visit to Manila. Then, in Australia, the Daily Telegraph is reporting that golfer Robert Allenby says he was kidnapped from a bar in Hawaii, robbed and beaten before being dumped in a park. And in the United Kingdom, the Times is still reflecting on the Paris attack, showing British Jews holding Je suis Charlie signs. They're showing their solidarity after the attack. Now, today's Twitter picture, well, the picture of the day, is no other one really. It's AB de Villiers setting his record 31 ball ODI 100 This pic was sent in by Jochie Prinsloo. It's been all over social media. There you have him, even out sprinting Usain Bolt. Whoever thought that was possible? In pink, nogal. AB de Villiers hier, biscuit. What a fantastic innings it was. I was fortunate enough to watch that innings, and it's the greatest one that I've ever seen, and I've watched a lot of cricket in my time. Send us your views, of course, to @SABC Newsroom of your fast on the dials, or we can put it on the show before the end of this morning. Now, before we go to an ad break, let's just have a quick look at what's happening across South Africa today. In Johannesburg, judgment in the appeal against it's this side, there we go. DASMS was sent to voters stating that President Jacob Zuma stole public money to build his Nkandla home. It was based on false information. It's expected to be delivered today. We'll stay in the city of Gold. A briefing on the South African medical team recruited to treat Ebola in Sierra Leone will take place at the Helen Joseph Hospital. After the break, we'll be joined by Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, to get an update on that story. Then in Pretoria, the Helen Suzman Foundation will seek an order declaring the suspension of Hawks boss Anwar Drammit invalid. And in Equatorial Guinea, in the Africa Cups of Nations tournament, of course, we'll see Ghana facing Senegal at 6 p.m. tonight. And, of course, South Africa will take on the mighty Desert Foxes. The #1 team on the African continent will play against Bafana Bafana at 9 p.m. tonight. The country will come to a standstill. We all will be watching. This is Newsroom. Let's take a short break. We'll come back with more.
Zoom into Africa. This is Gabon. The president is Mr. Ali Ben Bongo. Gabon got independent from France on August 17 in 1960. The population is over 1 million people. One of the major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is CFA.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Last week, Liberia, Guinea and Sierra Leone recorded the lowest weekly total of confirmed Ebola cases since August last year. The United Nations has, however, warned that the deadly virus still remains a public health emergency that is far from over. Now, to give us the latest on the outbreak that has up-to-date claimed nearly 8,500 lives, we are joined in Cape Town by Dr. Gilles Kankutsim, the medical coordinator for Médecins Sans Frontières in South Africa, who has just returned from Sierra Leone. A very good morning to you, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Just a correction, I just returned from Liberia.
From Liberia?
But,
yeah. Semantics here in South Africa for us. We feel so far removed from this, but you've just been there. Tell us about the situation on the ground. Are we turning the corner somewhat in dealing with the Ebola virus?
So it's good news that we're at the lowest numbers of new cases since August, but this is a very unpredictable epidemic. It's also the biggest epidemic by far of Ebola ever seen in human history, and there have been multiple times in other corners where we saw low numbers and then increasing numbers again. So there is no victory at all yet, and it will need a sustained, robust and flexible response, ongoing response from both national and international actors.
What are the figures saying, though, in each country? Are we seeing a significant decline? Is the graph going in the right direction for you?
So yes, in Liberia, there's a very significant decline after a peak in September, October. The numbers have been steadily going down in Liberia. In Sierra Leone, the numbers remain very high, but have stabilized compared to November, December numbers. And in Guinea, the numbers also have stabilized, but we see geographic expansion of the epidemic with cases being declared in new districts over time. So that is very worrying because, as you know, one case can start a new epidemic.
What's the international response like at the moment? Is it waning? Is it losing interest?
Look, Doctors Without Borders has in September asked for actors with capacity to fight biological disasters for increased investment. The international response has been mostly financial and in building treatment centers for Ebola, but leaving it to NGOs and to national departments of health to staff these treatment centers. So the international response currently lacks flexibility and lacks coordination. We still don't have enough treatment centers where they are most needed, and we see a big lag time in the response where treatment centers are built where they are not needed anymore, and response capacity is needed in new places. There is a big need as well to invest in non-Ebola health services, which have come to a standstill since the epidemic. And so many people are dying from non-Ebola related diseases because the hospitals and the clinics are closed. So there's a need for investment in safe reopening of existing health systems, plus increased flexible approach to eliminate every new outbreak, every new place where cases are coming up.
What about Ebola trials that are being talked about? Can you give us an update on Ebola trials going on?
Yeah. So in terms of Ebola treatment trials, MSF is involved in 3 different trials. The first one is an antiviral drug called favipiravir. The research is led by INSERM, which is the French health research agency, and that is happening in the MSF treatment center of Gekedou in Guinea. There is a second antiviral trial in Monrovia in Liberia in the LY3 treatment center of MSF on a drug called brincidofovir that is led by Oxford University and a consortium of researchers that has started on the 1st of January. And then there is a third trial in the Donka MSF treatment center in Guinea on the use of convalescent plasma of survivors of Ebola, and that is supposed to start in the coming 2 weeks, and that's led by the Institute for Tropical Medicine of Antwerp.
Thank you very much for that update. That is Dr. Gilles Kankousem, who joined us live from Cape Town. He's the medical coordinator for Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders here in South Africa. Yes, the news is good coming out of the affected areas in West Africa, but there's still a long fight ahead to come to terms with the damage caused by the Ebola virus. What are you talking about? What are you tweeting about? Laura Baisi says, great, Mali officially declared Ebola free. Yes, there were a handful of cases in Mali. Weekend End Poverty says, economic and social impact will linger long after eradicate Ebola on Ebola Respond setup. Fun, is it? Ebola News says Ebola outbreak slows in West Africa, leaving US-built treatment centers empty. This according to New York Magazine. No, this is not the case. We just heard a different story from Médecins Sans Frontières who is right on the ground there. The centers are not empty. The hospitals might be empty, but they're still in quarantine. People can't even go if they're suffering from cancer or any other disease. But let's take a look now at our tweet of the day. This one is sent in by Lwandile Magaka, and it says, God bless Bafana Bafana and everyone who believes in them. Yes, today it will be 50 million South Africans. We all believe in Bafana Bafana today. We all believe in Sheikh Mashaba. We all want him to put one over the Desert Foxes a little bit later today, 9 p.m. exactly on our sister channel. The match will be very much live, so you can't miss it. It is one of the biggest matches in recent times for Bafana Bafana, I think, personally, simply because the team have played so well. 10 matches unbeaten at the moment. But let's take a look on our Newsroom Facebook page. What else is there? You'll see the Economic Freedom Fighters in Gauteng says it'll begin a program to occupy vacant land this year. That should be interesting, yeah? The ballot papers have been delivered and observer missions have begun dispatching teams to polling centers as Zambia gears for its presidential by-election. That will be tomorrow. And Sports Minister Vigi Limbalula has wished Bafana Bafana well as they aim to win their first African Nations Cup away from home when they tackle the continent's #1 ranked country in Algeria in Equatorial Guinea tonight. Of course, they won't win if they win tonight, but they'll take a big step towards that if they do. Now, all those stories and more on our Facebook page. That's Newsroom on Facebook. Click on it, pops up. All the latest on there, sabc.co.za/news. That's where you get all the other updated headlines. For many, it's back to work this Monday morning. Some of us have been working for 2 weeks, mind you. It might mean sitting in the traffic for those of you, long meetings and dealing with difficult clients. But before you start complaining, take a look at this guy's job and let us know if you would trade jobs with him anytime in the near future. Over 200,000 users have slithered onto YouTube to watch this courageous man who would surely make a clean sweep at the world's Bravest Man Awards. His daily job is to clean up a snake pit. But there are a pile of cobras, king cobras, mind you, in the world. Look at them standing at attention in the background there. Not for me. I'm African like that. Snakes are not like that.
Ой, смотри, какие классные.
Of the most poisonous snakes in the world. Makes my skin crawl, totally. Anyhow, you're watching Newsroom. Let's take a short break.
Art is a personal expression that evokes a flame from within.
Street art, it's a vast concept.
Dancing is one of the main art forms on the streets of Africa. Regardless of how it is done, the streets remain expressive. A passionate artist in the central business district of Johannesburg.
Yeah, I've been doing this it's been 7 years or 8 years now.
Brains lost control on what to do then. Words dispute in the mouth of a woman.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays, 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Well, hello and welcome back to Newsroom. Let's just recap on the news-making headlines this morning. Humanitarian agencies are rushing to assist thousands of people who have been displaced in Malawi following floods that have killed at least 176 people and left several others missing. According to disaster relief organizations, Malawi is most likely facing the greatest flood disaster in the history of its existence. Torrential rains continue to pour down and a new cyclone is set to make landfall soon. The prevention of waterborne diseases and food security are of main priorities at the moment. Back in South Africa, the Malamulele community in Limpopo has vowed to continue indefinitely with their shutdown until the demands are met. Businesses, schools, taxis and other industries will not operate for a second week. Limpopo police say officers and vans were pelted with stones at the Nkambo village outside Malamulele in Limpopo last night. Residents demand to be granted their own municipality separate from the Thulamela municipality. And Bafana will open their 2015 AFCON campaign against the #1 ranked African side Algeria today. The South Africans find themselves in the worst case scenario whereby they are in what is argued to be the group of death. Algeria's status as the top ranked soccer nation on the continent will come under tough scrutiny as the African Nations Cup moves into a third day. Well, all those top stories and more are all available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can then also keep up to date on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, over to you.
Thanks, Katrina. Now, the 2015 Cape Minstrel Parade is finally done and dusted after weeks of uncertainty. Arts and Culture Minister Nathi Ntetwa said the annual Cape Town Minstrels Parade has a role to play in the construction of a united society. The parade was eventually held 3 weeks later. It is traditionally held on January 2, known as Tweede Nuwe Jaar, but this year it was postponed for religious and other reasons. It was rescheduled for January 5, but the date was postponed for logistical reasons then. It was the first time that the parade was organised by the minstrels. The City of Cape Town gave the committee 2 million rand to organise the parade, but last week expressed concern over the state of readiness. Now, the director of the Cape Minstrels and Carnival Committee, Patrick Brink, joins us in our Cape Town studio to give us his views after the parade. A very good morning to you, Mr. Brink. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Evan. Thank you for having us once again.
17de Nuwe Jaar is what they call it in Cape Town. What has been your reaction to 17de Nuwe Jaar?
Well, it's a day that wasn't in the plan, but it happened, and it happened successfully. People lined streets 2 days in advance prior to the march, and it went off well. Contrary to all the negativity we received in the week running up to the event, but I think it went off well.
I want to ask you about your reaction to the City of Cape Town, who at times doubted and continually did right until the last minute about your state of readiness, is what they called it. Your reaction to that?
Yes, Eben, if you remember the last time we had the discussion, I said we meant to have been partners in all of this. And again, the city's total disbelief in us as an organization and our readiness, I think we've all put that to bed. We've shown our absolute commitment to this process and to get it done. And I think again, we've absolutely done a wonderful job.
Now, has this Cape tradition, the heritage of the working classes in the Western Cape, especially on the Cape Flats, has this been drawn into the middle of a political dogfight in the Western Cape?
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. I just think that there are some political organizations that has realized the importance of this event. And there is others that is just on the other side saying it's just another event. I remember your question you posed to me a little bit more than a week ago was that, is this a sacred day? Yes, it is. And I think as soon as the city starts realizing that this is a sacred day for us as it's our event, then we would get the necessary support that we should get from them.
Now, Mr. Brink, you talk about this sacred day, and this is my personal point of view all along. Tweede Nuwe Jaar should be a sacred date in the calendar of the Western Cape of South Africa and should supersede all other festivals, including religious, logistical, cultural.
Yes, Eben, like I said to you the last time, the biggest challenge for us is that if it does fall on a Friday and it does fall on a Sunday, unfortunately we've made that conscious decision as an organization that it would happen either then on the 3rd. And I don't think we're going to move away from that because we, like I said, we observe those two days being a Sunday and a Friday.
Now, going forward, what would you like to see both at a provincial and national level in order to not deal with the kinds of issues that you've had to put up with after New Year's Day in the run-up to the event?
We would just like the necessary respect as an organization, and then, of course, all of the support. I think it's important because I think we've sort of taken over as of November when we signed this historic agreement, and I think we did exceptionally well to put together four marches in the space of a month. So I think going forward, we would just need all the role players to start trusting us as an organization, and not have this bickering that's going on behind the scenes, and just say, you know what, this is yours, this is the support we're going to give you, and this is the way we're going to assist you in putting this thing together.
Mr. Brink, for those people that live in other parts of the country that don't quite understand the event, you've got a minute to tell us what this event means to the working classes in the Western Cape.
Man, it is just down to heritage and a culture that has been around forever. And it is just a time of festivity. And if you were in Cape Town over Saturday, and even in the build-up to it on Friday night, people camp out. People line the streets the night before, sleeping there just to get the best spot. So it's an event that needs to be recognized for what it's worth, and the value that it brings to the city of Cape Town and to the broader South Africa.
Thank you very much. Patrick Brink, who is a director of one of the most colourful events in South Africa, went off this weekend almost incident-free, but only one stabbing, but that seemed to be an isolated incident. Thank you once again for organising a fantastic event and joining us this morning.
Thanks, Eben.
Without a hitch, it went off. We move on, and we hope tonight will go off without a hitch. Algeria's status as the top-ranked soccer nation on the African continent comes under tough scrutiny as the African Nations Cup finals moves into a third day. They play South Africa, who've taken now a 12-match unbeaten run with an impressive recent run of form, and in the elimination of defending champions Nigeria in the qualifiers of the tournament into the match at the Estadio de Mongomo tonight. The opening Group C game in the town of, on Equatorial Guinea's eastern border with Gabon will be followed by, will be preceded rather by a heavyweight clash between Ghana and Senegal. The kickoff of the group has been much anticipated, and it features 4 nations who can be considered title contenders. They also call this the Group of Death. Now, to talk more about this in studio today, we have former sports commentator, now a man who's the finest legal mind in South Africa, Dumile Mateza. Good morning, Dumile.
Good morning. For a moment, I thought, I wondered who you were talking about.
Well, let me continue lapping it up here for you. Before we speak to the legendary commentator, General Doyen of South African soccer, let's have a quick look at how things went in the tournament this weekend, and let's have a look at the standings. There you saw, they are the results from Saturday. Of course, the host nation played to a draw, 1-1 draw it was against Congo Brazzaville. They were leading that game for most of the time, but a late equalizer spoiled the party somewhat. Burkina Faso went down 2-0 to Gabon, which is an interesting result because Burkina Faso has always been a good side. Yesterday, Zambia, Congo DR, and Tunisia and Cape Verde played to a 1-1 draw. A bit of a setback for Tunisia, who comes into the tournament as one of the favourites. Let's take a quick look at how the group standings are. There you have it after the first round. Gabon at the top. They'll be dancing in the streets there. One more win and Gabon will be through. It looks like, well, from where I'm standing, that the smaller sides are going to make quite a splash at this tournament. Group A. Group B. Let's have a look at Group B quickly. There you go. All square, all the way down. Goal difference, goals, points, matches, all the same. All to play for in that group. I quite like Cape Verde. I think the Cape Verde team might surprise a few in this tournament. But let's come back to Dumile Mateza. Mr. Mateza?
Yes, Ewan.
A mouthful that I said there. The one thing that sort of comes out, in Nigeria, we've knocked them out in the qualifiers. It seems that this could be the Nations Cup of the little guy. Do you get that feeling?
Yes, I do get that feeling. One of the other things I made yesterday, looking at the matches that I've seen since Saturday, was the fact that there's very little goals that are being scored in this tournament, and we haven't seen good goals. For Gabon, for instance, it's the fact that the tournament was moved from Morocco to Equatorial Guinea was a blessing in disguise for them, because they're just next door to
it's almost a province. It's almost a province. One of Gabon's provinces is Equatorial Guinea.
Yes, it's just next door, and they actually used to the conditions, and they've made good use of those conditions. The other thing is, one of the things that's going to be a problem for many teams is the fact that the turfs have been laid out recently, because they had to rush within 2 months. We're going to host this game, and we're going to have this tournament, and that's going to be the big problem.
Just give me your impressions from what you've seen, the opening ceremony, the first few matches, state of readiness, all of that. Have you been impressed, the fact that they've had virtually no time to put this thing together?
Well, they had very little time to put this thing together. One of the other things is the fact that they do not have accommodation. Accommodation is pricey for many people. Yeah. I saw the Congo team, the coach, Leroy, complaining that the hotels, the wires are hanging outside, the electricity wires are hanging. He says, I don't want a 5-star hotel. I only want a clean hotel.
He doesn't want a hotel where there are wires hanging out the window? So that's a bit rich, but then again, it's Charles Leroy, is it? He's always been one of the great complainers, though, in African football, hasn't he?
He's one of the few who are called the fathers of coaches in Africa, the White Witch.
Yes, the White Witch, and also a man who loves to complain. But let's talk about tonight, because this really is the acid test for this Bafana side. It's also the acid test for Shakes Mashaba. What's your feeling?
My feeling is, having seen what Bafana have been able to do over the last couple of days, what many people actually forget is that Shakes took the under-23 side a couple of years ago to the Olympic Games, and actually were knocked out by Spain in that Olympic Games. And that Spanish team went out to become a huge European team later. And we have seen with his unpredictability, with his selections over the last couple of games that he's played, he likes to try the untested. And this is the kind of thing he's going to be doing tonight again.
Now, South African fans are very uncompromising. We are expecting a win tonight. But this is the #1 ranked side on the continent for a reason. Are we being reasonable if we expect a win, or should we settle for a draw and pick up points up elsewhere? It is a group of death.
I think it is important to win your first game and know that you're sitting pretty like Gabon. Important to win your first game, make a statement, win that first game, especially in this group. Because if you don't win your first game in this group, you can be beaten by Senegal, you can be beaten by Ghana, although none of these teams that are in this group have ever beaten South Africa. South Africa has played 3 times with Algeria. They drew one match, they've beaten them in the other 2. They haven't actually been beaten.
See, now you're putting the mockers again on Bafana. Really? You have to bring out that stat.
The other thing is, yes, you have to bring out the stats to put the matter into perspective. The other thing is the fact that they are #1 ranked team in Africa. They play a kind of style of football that the Germans were playing a couple of years ago. Yeah. And strong defense, disciplined attack. They don't rely on individuals, although you will pick up a few individuals here and there, like Islam Slimani, Sofiane Faguli, and Riyad Mahrez. But surely they are a team to beat. If South Africa go through and beat Algeria, we can just as well say...
We're odds on to win the title, says Dumile Mateza.
Not necessarily to win the title. Go through this group.
You've got 30 seconds to tell us. I want to ask you this. The death of Senzo Mayiwa tonight is very much, I think, where a team will be playing for Senzo. The death of Senzo Mayiwa, we've been conceding a couple of goals since he's passed away. Are you happy with where we are in goals?
I think we have a little bit of a slight problem at goalkeeping, especially at the back. I understand one of our defenders is not playing today because he's serving a suspension for this match, and Litsolonyane is also serving a suspension for this match. But I think we should put our faith in whoever we have, and tonight is what we need is a big match temperament, and that's what we're likely to see tonight from our goalkeeper.
Score, please.
1-0 to Bafana.
Thank you. Very conservative today. A man who's lamenting the fact that there's no goals in the tournament says 1-0 to Bafana Bafana. I say Bafana Bafana are coming out tonight. It's going to be a big coming out party. We're winning 3-1. Of course, you can hit me over the head on social media tomorrow if I'm wrong. Anyhow, let's take a... Thanks to Jamila Matez. Always wonderful to have the doyen of all of us that worked in the sporting fraternity here in South Africa with us. Thanks to Mile. Let's have a quick final look at what you're talking about on Twitter. Are you sending... Okay, you're sending... If I'm realistic about our chances, if we beat Algeria, then we're winning this AFCON 2015. Demile says, just hold your horses, one step at a time. Neo says, I wish Bafana Bafana couch. Shakes Mashaba could hear us. On goalkeeper start with Darren Kitten, captaining with Dean Furman. I like Andile Jali, to be honest. But anyhow, good luck to Bafana Bafana, says Takhane. That is the sentiments of an entire nation tonight. Spoo says, we're going to beat Ghana, draw against Senegal, lose against Algeria. We're through to the knockout stages. We're going to need to have some goal difference if that's the results that you are picking. Thank you very much for watching this morning. Of course, tonight, 9 o'clock is the game. We will have some of the reaction tomorrow morning and have a bit of fun with it as well. Newsroom is broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. The show repeats at 2 in the afternoon with a complete rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following day. We're also live on YouTube at this time with the show available on demand on our YouTube channel. So you've got no excuse to miss it, even if you're in the office opposite your boss. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We love it in the morning.